Not from today?
You weren't there for me to talk to, so I can talk to my friends.
It's in the front row, too.
I know.
I don't like when I was in college, I always said that.
Yeah.
These things, not so bad.
I'm gonna silence myself on this. Right next to me, it's all right. I'm gonna silence.
So next time I'm gonna give you pointers. I start asking you questions.
I'm just gonna call you out. I should learn my lesson last time.
Well, protesters block I-5 in Sacramento call for justice after their release. Where they blocked it at I-5?
They were on I Street earlier.
Didn't have a gun, he had a cell phone. You know, at one point I was trying to be a cop. If I had a better driving record, I'd be a CHP and I would have been on the job 31 years by now. 31 years and I still couldn't retire. Not till I'm 50.
Welcome everyone. At this time, we'd like to begin the meeting of the Finance and Audit Committee for the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District. Today is the 22nd of March. Call to order. Roll call.
Do we have a motion on consent yet?
No. I meant roll call. Did you want to see if we were all here?
Oh,
What's your pleasure with the consent item, gentlemen?
I'll move the consent.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor, Board Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Director Orzali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving on to action items, we have election of officers. And I believe that we held this over from our last meeting due to the fact that some people were not here to properly defend themselves. At this time, I would take a nomination for chair of this fine committee, if anybody is interested.
I'll nominate you, Matt. You've done a great job.
Well, thank you. Will we do so? Then maybe you'd nominate me. Do you have a slate in mind by any chance?
I would second the nomination for you to remain as chair.
Oh, perfect. Then there's a motion and a second. All those Board Clerk, please take the roll. Seeing no objections, such will be the order.
Director Orzali,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
and Director Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Although I would like to note that in Director Wood's absence, I nominated him. I'm just
I
trying.
beat you to it this time.
I'm just trying to help.
For Vice Chair.
Oh, for vice chair, sure.
For Vice Chair. I would second that nomination. And Board Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Director Orzali,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
and Director Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The action items are taken care of. Presentation items, and thank you for bearing with us through that effort. Financial report through December 31st. Ms. Thomas.
Good evening, directors, Chief Harms. This evening, I will be presenting the financial results for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. So that's the 6 months ended December 31st, 2017. The first chart that we're going to look at shows the cash balance in all of the district-held funds. Again, that's as of December 31st, 2017. And you can see the red line is showing the balance for the current fiscal year 17-18. The figure as of December 31st was a negative $15.5 million. You can see that that is a more positive or a less negative number than we had at the same point in time in the previous fiscal year. And the reason for that is that the timing of our IGT occurred earlier this fiscal year than it did in the previous fiscal year. So that's the primary contributor to why our cash position is improved at this point in time in the fiscal year compared to the prior year. The next chart here shows our general fund reserves. So this differs from the previous chart in that, A, we're not showing a cash balance, but we're showing a reserve balance based on our revenue and expense activity, not actually money in and out the door, but related to the timing of revenues and expenditures. And then B, the other difference is that this is showing only the general fund of the district, so none of the other funds. You can see that on this chart we are also showing a bit of an improvement with the blue line being the current fiscal year and the red line being the prior fiscal year. The primary factor contributing to this improvement has to do with the timing of property tax revenues received. Due to the federal tax legislation, there were a number of property tax payments that were made at the end of December that otherwise would have been made in April. So we saw about $5 million in property tax revenue received in December that we otherwise wouldn't have seen because of that. So that's kind of what we're seeing in terms of the difference, the primary contributor to the difference between the two lines there. The other thing that I'll point out on this chart is you can see the starting reserve balance. So that's the dot all the way to the left there at the July 1 mark. You can see that was essentially unchanged from fiscal year 16-17 to fiscal year 17-18. So about $22 million starting reserve balance. We're projecting that number will be approximately $1 million lower when we finish this fiscal year. That's the dashed yellow line, and that's based on our mid-year budget, which has a deficit or a use of reserves of approximately $1 million. This chart is showing our medic cost recovery revenues, you probably remember me mentioning in previous reports and then also when we did the mid-year budget presentation that these revenues have been trending below our budget for the fiscal year. So you can see the red line here is showing the current fiscal year, the green line prior fiscal year, and then the blue line our budget number. While we have been trending below budget, I think it is encouraging to point out that we do have actual collection amounts in for January and February, and those are shown with that dashed line there extending past the solid red line. So while it's not technically in our reporting period here, those amounts are known, and you can see that that's showing an improvement in those 2 months, so that we're now approximately $1.5 million over where we were in February of the prior fiscal year. We do expect that number to continue to improve as we move through the fiscal year and trend up towards the blue budget line. If you'll remember, we did implement a rate increase that was effective September 1st. So as we start collecting for those transports that happened in that period of time, that's going to contribute to an increase over the prior year revenues. And then it's also my understanding that our EMS division has been working with our billing company to implement some improvements to documentation that should help in those collection efforts as well. The next chart is showing us total revenues. So again, the red line is giving us the actual results through the end of December. So we're at about $108.7 million, and that's comparing to where we're planning to end the year at $200.7 million. You can see that we're just slightly above last year's number and our budget number, again, related to those property tax collections, mostly offset somewhat by the fact that our medic cost recovery revenues were trending lower. And this chart is showing us salaries and benefits expenses. So as you know, salaries and benefits make up the majority of our operating budget. You can see that as of the end of December, we were at about $82 million and really right on track with that blue budget line to end the year at about $168 million. And then this chart is showing us total expenditures, and you can see they're trending pretty much in line with budget, slightly below the blue budget line at almost $99 million halfway through the year, expecting to end the year at almost $202 million. And then finally, this chart is showing us the balance in our SERPT fund, which is our OPEB or Retiree Medical Trust Fund. This fund is not held by the district. It's held outside the district, so it's not included in the cash balances that were presented at the beginning of this chart. You can see as of the end of December, total balance in the fund was just under $32 million, and that was made up of contributions to date of about $26 million and earnings to date of about $5.8 million. And that green portion there is showing how much of the cumulative balance in the fund has been made up of from investment earnings. You can see that that's grown significantly recently. So in summary, for the first 6 months of the fiscal year, our revenues and expenses are generally on track with our budgeted amounts. Overall, as of the end of December, revenues exceeded expenditures by $9.7 million, and that's due to getting those property tax revenues in December. Our medic cost recovery revenues are starting to catch up with projections, so we had been trending below last year and below our budgeted amount, but have seen some improvement there in recent months. Our cash balance is trending higher than the prior year, and as I mentioned, that's primarily due to the timing of IGT receipts. We also had some GEMT prior year amounts that were contributing to that. And finally, the SERPT fund continues its run of strong returns. And that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to take questions you might have.
Any questions from the group?
Not at this time for me.
Nope.
I would like to thank you for your report, and thanks for keeping an eye on things and reporting the good with the bad.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, then. Any questions from board members? Any comments? Any items you want to see on the next agenda? All right, then. We will proceed to close. Next meeting date is scheduled for April 26th. Hope to see you all present.